Alrighty, so first couple of questions. Yes, I'm still at a mate's house. Yes, I do have two Alpine shirts. No, I am not sponsored by Alpine. Even though they are quite refreshing and much better than the competition. Even though I am still at my mate's house, with my work schedule being as it is, I'm not going to have time to make this exactly on New Year's Eve, considering I will be working then throughout the entire night. In fact, I just finished working earlier. I've been up since 4:40 this morning, and it is now 11:30 at night. I had to do some whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter what I had to do in the afternoon. That's not what you're here for. I wanted to make a series of videos. I'm going to try and do it in the one sitting, but I'll cut it up so that you guys don't have to sit through like multiple topics that you might not be interested in. But I'm going to try and do it in the one sitting, even though I am tired as fuck. But that is why I have my drink with me. We're going to power through this together. If there's anything that you don't find particularly interesting, if I've done any form of work on this that I would like to be considered actual editing, it will at least be in some form of playlist, or I might have even put some annotations into the various sections. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go on record with where I am in my nerd pilgrimage, so to speak. Yes, there was a time when this channel wasn't just named Nerd Pilgrim for the sheer fuck of it. It was actually named because I wanted to, as a nerd, which used to be a derogatory term, but now it's sort of come into chic. Everyone's a nerd these days. I wanted to be as a nerd and go on a pilgrimage through all the things that I considered entertaining or entertainment. And I'm gonna try and not say the word entertainment 5 fucking million times again. So what I'm gonna say instead is each of the forms of entertainment and where I think I am through them. So hopefully I've cut this up into a couple of videos. I'll include this introduction with my first most passionate topic, and we'll go from there. My first most passionate topic is one that I've been invested in this hobby since I was a baby, quite literally. There are stories of me and my older brothers, like Lap. While he would play the game, he would give me the controller when I had just come out of the hospital. So, I mean, this has been with me for a long time, and I think it's the form of entertainment that I know most about. This is going to seem rather arbitrary, so you can either pay heed to this, or you can actually take it into zero account whatsoever. But just to sort of give you a scale or how knowledgeable I feel I am with a certain topic, I'm just going to do it out of 10 because that seems to be what the internet's doing, and that's the regular fad to do these days. So, out of 10, when it comes to video game knowledge, I would rate myself as an 8. Only not a 9 because I don't finish as much as I'd like to, and 10 would imply that I know everything about video games. So I don't ever think I will get to a 10, but I think that, there is room for improvement into at least 9. So what does that mean, an 8? That means that I know most of the video game companies out there. I can tell you quite a lot of what they've made. I can tell you quite a lot about their practices, some of their maybe trademarks in their gameplay. I can tell you directors. I can tell you stories about the lives of video game directors. I can tell you what games were popular during this time, which games introduced a certain element. Like the main one that I'm thinking of right now that comes to mind is the Gears of War cover shooter. The whole Gears of War revolutionized that for first-person shooters. And yes, while everyone will say, "Oh, but there was that one game," I know it's like saying, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. That one is responsible for the FPS boom. Yes, it is, but obviously you have to take into account Quake and Doom and Halo and Unreal Tournament. There's a whole bunch of factors, but I'm talking about Gears of War is the one that put it on the map. Now, with video games, I have knowledge of thousands and thousands of video games. I own over 900 video games. I have played over 900 video games. I have finished very few of those. I would like to aim. You might have heard in my list of incomplete stuff where I was telling you, like, those were my exact specifics at the time, and those haven't changed, and I've been very good about that going into 2017. I wanted to actually focus on things that I could actually complete, and before going out and buying stuff, and I will go out and buy stuff that I won't finish, but before I do that, I wanted to hold on for the hope as long as I could that I will actually go and finish some of the things that I already own. Now, here's something that I wanted to set as, like, I wanted to make these series of videos as like benchmarks. So if someone's like, what do I need to know about the Nerd Pilgrim and Stuart in general? So my favorite kind of video games, very difficult. My favorite genre, it comes and goes. When I was younger, it used to be platformers. Then it used to be real-time strategy. It wasn't really ever first-person shooters. Role-playing games are a big one. Sims, I was never really into simulators. But in terms of the games that I love the most, it would probably be right now shorter games. I have a horrible attention span these days when it comes to video games, and if something doesn't grab me in the first hour or two, then I'll usually put it down and it will never be played again. That being said, somewhat inconclusive to the statement I just made, I love role-playing games, and those don't really get started, but once I get into those, yeah, I will fucking play those to the end. Role-playing games of all kinds, whether they be the Western role-playing games akin to an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout, or a JRPG, or like the Final Fantasies and the Breath of Fires. Those games are the ones that are appealing to me at the most right now. Character action is an up-and-coming genre that I really like as well. Yeah, don't give me shit about saying up-and-coming. I mean, it's only been, like, really, really good recently. Yep, and don't give me shit about that either. I know everyone's going to have their favorites. Okay, speaking of favorites, my favorite video game of all time. That's a really difficult thing, and most people wouldn't be able to give you their favorite, or at least when you have such a big library of, like, or at least such a large knowledge of stuff, it's really hard to contend which one is actually your favorite. For me, I would have to say it really comes down to a handful, and any of those handful could easily, on different days, be considered my favorite. So the first one, which is always my go-to, is Crash Bandicoot Warped. That's been my favorite ever since I was a kid. That was the game where I would always play that. I've played it literally hundreds of times. Whether or not that's to completion is another thing. But in terms of there's been at least 10 occasions that I can think of where I have gone through and gotten all the crystals or the relics. That means like all the platinums. Well, maybe not all the platinums in the 10, but at least all the relics, all the gems, all the secret levels, everything. And there was at least, I can think of 4 times definitely that I got all the platinums in terms of that. Crash Bandicoot was my favorite game series for a long time, and that seems to be a video game that just disappeared. I don't know where that went. They're going to be bringing it back in 2017 for the Insanity Edition, I believe it's called, and I can't fucking wait. I was this close to buying Skylanders just because of Crash Bandicoot. I already owned Skylanders because of Spyro, who was another long-lost friend that seems to have gone wayward by the years, but yeah, those are the ones that I feel like Crash Bandicoot is probably my favorite game. The ones that I always go, There's a lot of games where I'm like, that's my favorite in the series, that's my favorite in this. Favorite role-playing game of all time is Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast, although the GameCube re-release was also quite cool. But Skies of Arcadia is my favorite role-playing game of all time. everything about that game is just amazing. I must have listened to the soundtrack like constantly after I played that. There hasn't been a single game that I've played since then that makes me think, wow, that was so much better than Skies of Arcadia. Favorite, another one of my favorites would be Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 just getting me into fighting games in general. I'd played, believe it or not, I'd actually played Street Fighter 1 at an arcade before I'd played Street Fighter 2. But Street Fighter 2 is the quintessential Street Fighter. Third Strike is amazing and fucking great, but Street Fighter 2 has more of an emotional investment with me. Street Fighter 3 is the better one in my opinion, but Street Fighter 3 doesn't have Bison, so you suck. Alrighty, apart from those, I can think of hundreds of video games that I really like. But those are the ones that I'm like, if I had to have favorites, they would be up there. And because they came to mind so easily, I know that I must have a bigger attachment to them than the other games. Because yeah, I could be like, oh, Spyro, since I was talking about Skylanders before. Spyro is great, but Crash Bandicoot is better in my eyes. And I know that this is all just my opinion, so you guys can... It's not like a fact that I'm like, well, you know, officially the universe has decreed Crash Bandicoot 3, greatest game of all time. And I know that when people hear that I said Skies of Arcadia over Final Fantasy VII, that'll be a sore spot, but this is my opinion. My least favorite video game, I don't even have in my brain right now. Like, I've played so many video games, and I hate to keep saying the same thing over and over, but it's just not, if it's bad, it's just not memorable, and it just gets deleted. It's not even delete. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna regret doing that. But it's just deleted from memory. It's just deleted from memory. And yeah, with 2017, my main goals for my video game pilgrimage from here on out, so that is from January 1st, 2017 onwards until such a time that I think that another change or another direction is necessary. I would love to play and finish more video games. I would like to finish more than 12 video games a year. I've done that every year for the last couple of years, but I would like to really finish more games than I buy. I know that's like pretty far-fetched, but I would love to catch up on a whole bunch of series that I've been meaning to, that I just haven't really finished, just for one reason or another. There's a lot out there that I would like to actually get back to and be like, okay, now it's time to sit down and finish this. What video game would I really love to see in 2017? That's a tough one. The Crash Bandicoot Insanity collection, I think that's the one that I'm most looking forward to, but that's just for nostalgia's sake and because it is my favorite video game in that mix. I don't really have a game that I'm going like, wow, 2017, that's the game that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I would love to experience a couple more new video games that I haven't experienced, but mainly my goal going forward for video games will be just completing more of them. And that was this video game section. That is where I am as of 2016, or my status of on the 1st of January, because I'm not going to be playing anything. I'm just solidly working. Like, even I'm gonna have to get up in another couple of hours and I'm gonna work, and then yeah, so I'm not gonna have time to play any video games. So this is my status going forward. I'm gonna use this as a checkpoint to see how far I've come in the future, and hopefully you guys can journey with me through video games.